So you're thinking about moving to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, but you have some questions. Don't worry, that is totally normal. Making a move to a new state is a big decision, and I encourage you to do your due diligence and gather as much information as possible. And I promise you, you're not alone. Many people that I talk to ask the same questions, which is why today I'm going to go over some of those top questions that I get asked. Hey, welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Nick, and on this channel I talk about things to do here in Myrtle Beach. I give tips and advice about the area, and I'm a real estate agent, so of course I talk about the real estate. So if you are thinking about relocating to the area, then be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and tap the little notification bell while you're at it. This way you can be the first to know about what's going on here in Myrtle Beach. I get calls every single day from people just like you who are moving to the area, so if you ever have any questions or if I can help you find home here at the beach, then I would love to chat with you. You can always use the first link down in the description to schedule a call with me. This is actually the third frequently asked questions video that I'm making here on this channel. So if this is the first one that you're seeing, then be sure to go check out the others by using the links that you can find down in the description. But don't do that before you finish watching this one, because I put out a ton of great videos on this channel all about moving to Myrtle Beach. So if you found any value at all, I'd appreciate it if you could do that for me. Okay, now let's go ahead and get into it. So one of the main questions that I get asked about here in the Myrtle Beach area is, what are my property taxes going to be? And usually the answer is a lot less than you're used to paying wherever you're coming from. So South Carolina has one of the lowest property taxes on average across the entire country. And Horry County, which is where Myrtle Beach is located, has one of the lowest tax rates here in the entire state. Now, depending on whether or not the home you're going to buy here is your primary residence or a second home or an investment property, is going to affect how much you pay in your taxes, because you do get a little bit of a break if it is your primary residence. Now, Horry County did just update their website, so now they do have a property tax calculator or estimator on their website, which is a great help because that'll help you do the calculations and it'll make it a little bit easier. There's a checkbox as to whether or not it's going to be your primary residence, whether or not you're old enough to qualify for the homestead exemption. So that should be able to give you a pretty accurate estimate. Now, general rule of thumb, if it is going to be your primary residence, then you can expect to pay around 0.42% of the purchase price or the home's value for a year of your property taxes. So if you're planning on buying a home for $500,000, you can expect to pay somewhere around $2,000 for the entire year. Now, people usually follow up that question with, how much am I going to pay for insurance, and do I need a flood insurance? In regards to the flood insurance, that is going to depend whether or not you live in a rated flood zone. I've talked about this in a little bit more detail in some of my other videos, but to give you a brief overview, the entire Myrtle Beach area technically is a flood zone, though most of the area is in what is called Flood Zone X, which means it is the non-rated zone. If you live in those areas, then if you have a mortgage on your home, you're not going to be required to get flood insurance, but of course you always can still do that to get the peace of mind, and it will be extremely cheap. Now, if you live in a rated flood zone, you're going to have to pay a little bit more for your flood insurance. It can go anywhere from a couple $100s a year to a couple $1,000s a year, depending on the exact location and then the elevation of your home. In regards to the normal homeowner's insurance, that is going to include your named storm or hurricane insurance in there as well. And the price that you're going to pay on that insurance, of course, is going to be determined by how much your home is valued at, but it's also going to be determined by the age of your home, and that is actually one of the biggest determining factors. So newer homes under 10 years old are going to have the best rates, and for those newer homes, you can expect to pay around 0.5% of the home's value for the entire year for the insurance. Now, of course, that is just a general overview, and I always recommend that you speak with an insurance agent while you're shopping around for a home so they can give you a better idea of what to expect. And while we're on the topic of insurance, the next question that I typically get asked is, do we get hurricanes here in the Myrtle Beach area? And the answer is yes, right? We are on the coast of South Carolina, We are in the hurricane belt, and there is a hurricane season from about midsummer to the end of October, and there is always a risk of hurricanes hitting our area. Of course, the closer that you live to the beach, the greater risk you're going to have for things like wind damage and the storm surge, but your risk doesn't end there just because you live more inland, right? Hurricanes can still travel inland, though they do start to lose some of their power as soon as they make landfall, but there can also be flooding inland as well, especially in the Myrtle Beach area due to some of the rivers that run through the area. So I encourage you to have these conversations, to do your due diligence and research. This way you can be most prepared to make the best decision for your personal situation. Remember that hurricanes are natural disasters and there's really nothing that we can do about them. All we can do is be prepared, listen to the professionals, the news stations, and just make sure you're doing everything possible to best protect yourself and your family. Okay, so the next question also has to do with a fear that people have of moving to the area, but in my opinion, it's a little bit less serious, and that is, are there alligators in the area? And the answer to this question is also yes. There are alligators in the area, and it's likely you will see an alligator when you're living here in Myrtle Beach, especially if you live in a community where you have a pond in your backyard, because alligators do spend a lot of their time in the water. So you might be looking out your back window or hanging out on your patio. You might see their little eyes go floating across in the pond, but they're not going to come out and bother you for the most part, right? They hang out in the pond. You might see them come up on the shore of the water there on the edge of the pond to get some sun. They'll hang out for a couple hours and then they'll go back into the water. Typically, when an alligator is out of the water, they're relaxing, they're getting sun, they're not out there to hunt. They do their hunting in the water. You do have to be careful, however, being close to the water's edge. So you don't want to be going down close to the water and sticking your hand in the water. You don't want to let your kids go out and play near the edge of the water, and you definitely don't want to let your dogs go out and play near the edge of the water, because that's when you're in the danger zone. So again, just make sure you are using precaution when you're out by the water, and just know that you will probably see alligators if you're planning on living here in Myrtle Beach. Now, the next two questions that I get asked the most frequently, I can't specifically answer. And that upsets some people, but the law prohibits me from doing so. Now, the next question that I get asked a lot is, where is the best place to live in the greater Myrtle Beach area? And unfortunately, I can't give you a specific answer to that for a couple of reasons, mainly because it's illegal for me to do so. I can't steer you into specific directions. I can give you information and help guide you to the best decision for your specific needs, but also I don't know your specific needs, right? You know what's going to be best for your situation, your family situation. And again, my job is to help you gather as much information as possible to teach you about the area the best that I can. This way you can make that decision for yourself, right? A lot of the areas are going to be based on personal preference. Do you like areas that are a little bit more rural? Do you need to be close to specific things like hospitals or grocery stores because you don't want to do a lot of traveling? Do you want to be close to the beach because you're planning to go to the beach every morning for a quick walk before you go into work, right? So I'll help teach you about the areas. This way, again, you can make the best decision based on all of that information. Now, the next question that I get asked about is also a question that I can't give you a specific answer on, and that is, what is the safety or the crime rates here in Myrtle Beach? Again, I always recommend you do your due diligence and you do your research, but again, that's not something that I can legally speak on. Now, something that I can say is, when you are doing your due diligence and when you're doing your research, there's some things that you should definitely be keeping in mind. When you see the crime rates here in Myrtle Beach, it's important to note that those crime rates are typically going to be based off the population of the city of Myrtle Beach, which is about 30 to 40,000 people. It doesn't take into account all of the people in the greater Myrtle Beach area where the population is closer to 400,000 people. And again, that only takes into account those people that permanently live here. It doesn't take into account the millions and millions of visitors that we get in this area each and every year. So the numbers can seem a little bit high, again, for the permanent population here in Myrtle Beach, but you want to factor in those numbers, and that should make things seem a little bit more reasonable. And the last question that I want to touch on is, where are people who are moving to Myrtle Beach coming from? Now, for the most part, a lot of people are going to be coming from the Northeast or from the Midwest. So places like New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, Ohio. That's where a lot of people have been coming from Myrtle Beach over the past couple of years. Because a lot of people in those areas used to vacation here. They learned about Myrtle Beach, they liked coming here on vacation, and decided that they wanted to make a move. In the more recent years though, I've also been getting a lot of calls from people from Arizona, from Colorado, and even from California. So to answer that question more briefly, people are coming from all over, with a majority of people coming from the Northeast, but Myrtle Beach is becoming more and more popular. More and more people are starting to hear about the area. That news is spreading, and again, people are coming here from all over. If this video answered any of your questions about moving to the Myrtle Beach area, again, I'd appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up button down below. And if you want to watch another video about the frequently asked questions I get here in Myrtle Beach, then be sure to watch this video here. It'll pop up somewhere on the screen. If you're ready to find your home here in Myrtle Beach, then I would love to chat with you. You can always use the first link down in the description to schedule a call with me. I'm looking forward to speaking with you. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.